In Mark chapter 2, beginning with verse 18, we read, "Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and people came and said to him, 'Why do John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not fast?' And Jesus said to them, 'Can the wedding guests fast while the bridegroom is with them? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. The days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast in that day. No one sews a piece of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. If he does, the patch tears away from it, the new from the old, and a worse tear is made. And no one puts new wine into old wineskins. If he does, the wine will burst the skins, and the wine is destroyed, and so are the skins. But new wine is for fresh wineskins.'" When reference is made here to fasting, it's talking about the ancient spiritual practice of abstaining from something, typically food, for a prescribed period of time for a spiritual purpose. Oftentimes it was associated with mourning and sorrow, many times in expressing remorse and penitence over sin. It was seen as a way of submitting the entirety of yourself to show God as most important, to experience his holiness and presence. And among the disciples of John the Baptist, who had himself baptized Jesus, among the disciples of the Pharisees, who were some of the most religiously observant people around, fasting was a regular part of their spiritual program. There were prescribed times where they would go without food, but Jesus' disciples didn't do that. And when Jesus responds to their question about that, he reveals a great deal to us about who he is and what he's about. And the primary reason to answer the direct question as to why they didn't fast is because they already had God's presence there in the person of Jesus. And as long as Jesus was with them, they didn't need to have fasting as a way to draw closer. They just needed to enjoy being with him. They needed to celebrate and rejoice, though even in that, Jesus acknowledged there would be a time for his followers to fast. And we see that after Jesus' death on the cross, after his burial and resurrection, once he ascended to reign at God's right hand, his followers would regularly worship and fast, pray and fast, as a way to experience God's presence, as a way to seek the Lord's will, to follow the Spirit's lead, as they sought to do what Jesus once done while he reigned from heaven. While we don't often practice fasting the same way in our day, age, and culture, some Christians are rediscovering the tremendous benefits of emptying ourselves out in this way and seeking God's presence. Yet even as Jesus addressed that question, showing that for his disciples at that moment in his ministry, they had God's presence, there was something even deeper that he revealed in this discussion that helps us to really know who Jesus is. Because as he was asked about why his disciples didn't fast, it was contrasting it with other religious programs, with other approaches to spiritual discipline. John the Baptist does this, and the Pharisees do this, and why don't you, Jesus? What distinguishes your ministry? What makes your approach to religion different? And Jesus points out that that's not really the right comparison. That what Jesus is doing in this world doesn't fit those labels and categories that we as humans tend to impose on religion, on spirituality. Jesus didn't come to just give us a set of practices to follow. And if you like his set, great. If you like John the Baptist or the Pharisees, those are good too. Or you can mix and match, just pick the practices you like. Jesus says, no, that's not what he's about. He didn't come to just give us some rituals to observe. He didn't come to give us another religious system to follow. He didn't come to just change how we practice our Sunday morning while leaving our Mondays through Saturdays untouched. Jesus is something new. He's something fresh. And if we try to fit him into those old categories, it's going to rip things up. It's going to make things explode. We're not going to get the value that we're supposed to get from following Jesus, and it's just going to make a mess of things. Jesus doesn't want to just be Lord of our Sunday mornings. Jesus doesn't want to just give us some pointers, a few extra things we can add on to the lives that we were going to live anyway, except we do these things for Jesus every once in a while, and now it's all better. No, Jesus wants to do something completely new, completely fresh with us. He wants to change who we are in our entirety. He wasn't just another religious teacher trying to recommend some ways of thinking about things and some practices. He wants to completely transform who we are. That is why Jesus came. And when we recognize that as we seek to follow him, when we don't try to just patch him on or pour a little of him into what we otherwise were going to do, but we allow him to truly make us into something new, our lives will change in the most abundant